Bedtime stories with me, skimmed milk. Tonight I'm reading The Artist's Palette by Elizabeth Koda Callan. The Artist's Palette by Elizabeth Koda Callan. Workman Publishing, New York. Once there was a shy little girl who loved to draw. She especially loved to draw the ordinary things around her, like the cat curled up on her windowsill or her neighbor's front yard. All her drawings went into a special sketchbook that she carried with her wherever she went. When she was in school, Miss Pearl's art class was her favorite place to be. "Good morning, everyone," said Miss Pearl as she swept into the classroom one morning with scarf and pearls flying. "Gather your paper and colored pencils. Today we're going outside to draw. It's a perfect day to work in the fresh air." Miss Pearl enjoyed surprising her classes with field trips to museums and galleries, but this time they were staying closer to home. She led them to a handsome red maple tree that shaded the school. "Most of you have played under this tree since you were little, but how many of you have ever really looked at it?" Miss Pearl paused. "Well, here is your chance, because today this tree will be your subject. All of you will be looking at the same tree, but each of you will have a different way of seeing it," Miss Pearl said. "Draw what you see." Some of the children stared down at their blank pads. Some stared at each other. But the little girl looked closely at the tree. Soon her hand was moving quickly, filling the white paper with color. When they returned to class, Miss Pearl asked the children to pin their drawings on the bulletin board. One looked like an upside-down broom and another like a giant broccoli. All the trees had brown trunks and green leaves. So did the little girl's. But unlike the other children's drawings, hers looked like a jar of yellow sprinkles had been spilled over the top. "That looks weird," said one classmate, pointing to the little girl's drawing. Another classmate seemed confused. "The tree wasn't yellow," she said. "Will you tell us about your drawing?" Miss Pearl asked. The little girl hesitated. She felt as if she had done something wrong. "It was very sunny," she finally said. "I wanted to draw the sun sitting on the tree." "Very good," murmured Miss Pearl. "You know, many painters have tried to capture light in their paintings." Even though Miss Pearl's voice was encouraging, the little girl felt uncomfortable because of her classmates' comments. Several weeks later, the class went outside for a second drawing session. Miss Pearl looked around at their work. She said, pausing for a moment behind the little girl, whose drawing this time looked very much like the other children's. At the end of the class, Miss Pearl announced that the school was having an art fair in the spring. "Think about what drawings you might like to enter," she said. The following afternoon, the little girl told Miss Pearl that she wanted to enter her second drawing in the art fair. Although Miss Pearl was pleased, she was surprised at the little girl's choice. Miss Pearl then pointed to the spiral-bound pad that the little girl carried. "I've been so curious about your sketchbook. May I take a look?" she asked kindly. The little girl hugged the sketchbook tightly to her chest. It must be very private, like a diary, Miss Pearl said. Well, you don't have to show me, even though I am the best secret keeper in the school. The little girl thought it over, laid her sketchbook down on the art room table, and slowly opened its cover. These are wonderful, Miss Pearl remarked, carefully examining each page. What personality you give this cat, and wow, look at that tree with those bold strokes of red and orange leaping into the sky. That's a tree in my backyard, said the little girl. Leaves were changing color, and it looked like it was on fire. I tried to draw that. It's so original. It would be perfect for the art fair. Miss Pearl sounded truly excited. The little girl hated to disappoint her teacher, but she wanted to enter a drawing that her classmates would like too. Why don't you give it some thought, Miss Pearl said, seeing that the little girl was uncertain. After class one day, Miss Pearl took the little girl aside. I wanted to thank you for sharing your sketchbook with me the other day, she began. Miss Pearl then reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, neat package of tissue paper. Inside the paper was a miniature artist palette complete with bright splashes of color. It sparkled on a shimmering silver chain. She placed it in the little girl's hand. When I was a little girl, I loved to draw too, Miss Pearl said. Almost as much as you do. I was given this necklace as a reminder that I had a gift, my own special way of seeing things, she explained. Now, be your reminder. The little girl could hardly contain her joy. She thanked Miss Pearl and immediately fastened the necklace around her neck. Then she rushed home to show her mother. It is a lovely gift, her mother said when the little girl showed her the necklace. Giving the little girl a big hug, her mother added, and I don't mean just the necklace. Up in her room, the little girl opened her sketchbook and with pencil in hand began looking around for something to draw. Suddenly, nothing seemed quite special enough. Miss Pearl's words kept running through her head, but what exactly had Miss Pearl meant? When the class gathered for the third time around the maple tree, the day was windy and chilly. The children bundled up in their sweaters and jackets and huddled over their pads. The little girl stared at the tree. To her, it looked like a black skeleton. Then she glanced down at her necklace and remembered what Miss Pearl had said. I'll draw what I see, she thought to herself. Just like I do in my sketchbook. And the little girl did just that. She drew a heavy black tree trunk with long, spindly branches. At the base of the tree, she penciled in jagged black lines that spread out over the ground, like cracks in a broken sidewalk. That's scary, one boy said when the little girl posted her drawing. The little girl held her breath. I don't think it's scary, she said softly. That's the tree and its shadow. Trees have shadows? The boy asked. Cool. The little girl smiled with relief. Later that day, the little girl asked Miss Pearl if there was still time to change her mind about the art fair. She wanted to enter her first drawing, the one with the sun on the tree, and the one of the tree and its shadow. Terrific, said Miss Pearl. And if you add the tree from your sketchbook, you'll have a wonderful series. The little girl liked that idea. Miss Pearl helped the little girl mount her drawings on poster board and fill out the entry forms. Spring seemed like a long way off, for both of them. The big day finally arrived. The fair was to take place outdoors. Miss Pearl's class worked all morning, decorating the various booths with banners and balloons. It was a perfect day for a fair. The sun was warm and inviting, and the branches of the old maple tree swayed in the slight breeze. The entire school had come out to see the show. The little girl was very excited and very nervous. Miss Pearl and her class slowly made their way past drawings of superheroes and dinosaurs, slinky cats and scaly dragons, fairy princesses and enchanted castles. Soon they came upon a familiar group of drawings, one of which was tagged with a blue ribbon. For the most original series, the ribbon read. "Oh my gosh," exclaimed the little girl. "Those are my drawings."
"Hey, look,"
said one classmate, pointing up at the maple tree.
"The one with the yellow top looks just like the real tree today."
And indeed it did.
"I like the one with the fiery leaves,"
added another.
"The scary tree's definitely the coolest,"
a third voice volunteered. Miss Pearl was smiling. And so was the little girl, who looked down at the silver palette that hung around her neck. At that moment, she didn't feel the need to say anything. Her drawing spoke for her. The end. Thanks for joining Bedtime Stories with your host, Skimmed Milk. Were you even paying attention?